Lionel, is that you?
There, I think I got it. David?
Yes, Lionel.
David? What are you working on? What are you working on right now?
I am in the decal stage of my Iraq MiG-29 and 72nd scale for the Desert Storm project that I'm trying.
Why aren't you working on a train thing?
I got a train thing within arm's reach. I got a boxcar I got to do some patching on to do for my proto freelance railroad, but I got a decal project right in front of me.
So recently, I've been working on a 1/24th scale car model because I was actually having trouble keeping my hand steady after my little incident in Florida. And I thought, I didn't care if I messed it up. I thought, I'm just going to start building this thing. And I started realizing I think I enjoy building, having a plastic model of a different sort other than railroading. It's kind of a fun thing to do over at the side once in a while.
It really is, yeah.
Yeah. And I think it also, this is something I think too, and I think I've discovered. And Marcus, back me up on this if you can.
I'm right here for you.
All right. I think I've discovered that, I'm putting this together, and it's just like building a Lego kit. It's just it's just fun to put the pieces together. I really have no need to assemble it, and I really have no plan to do anything with it other than to finish it. And it's just fun to sit here and put the pieces together.
I think that's to me, on the plastic model side, that is the ultimate joy of that hobby, of just enjoying the build and not really having a big care in the world of how it turns out.
Yeah, not caring how it turns out is kind of half the secret, I think.
Yeah,
it's not like our guest tonight who what did they do? What do you call it when you're Marcus? Thanks for backing me up on that, by the way.
Oh yeah, right here for you.
What do they call it when you restore a car, an old passenger car?
I'd say you either refurbish or restore. I mean, we use the word restoration, or we restore an old passenger car.
Is it restore? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, restore, I think is the right word. That's what I would use.
So Derek, our guest tonight, restored a passenger car.
Mm. Oh, really?
Yeah.
In which scale?
1 to 1.
Really?
This is full scale modeling right here.
Yeah,
wow.
Full scale modeling. Do you ever think of that, Marcus? Marcus, who's for those who don't know, this is on the free channel. This is on Monday on the free channel. And Marcus, for those of you who don't know, for first-time listeners, is a big shot at the North Carolina Transportation Museum. You own it.
And a bachelor.
You own it too, don't you?
Yeah, we all own it because, well, if you live in the state of North Carolina, we all own it because we're taxpayers, right? So
nice.
Although it's a very small portion of the revenue every year is state generated, it comes to the state. It is a state facility. So yes, I guess we all own it.
But you're not like Kelly, where you're always yelling at the volunteers, are you?
No, we don't have to yell at the volunteers very often. It's our volunteers they pretty much toe the line. they do the right thing. So we had a good group of volunteers.
That might be an interesting show, Kelly, if we have you and Marcus on discussing the how to maintain and look after your volunteers. Because you seem to be getting rid of them on a regular basis.
I don't get rid of them. They either pass away or they move away.
Well, they come and go. I mean, for us too, it's like they are there for a period of time. A lot of them are there for, we just had a banquet this past weekend, and we had some that have been there over 35 years. And then there's some that come and they volunteer for a little while, and it just becomes something they do for a bit, and then they go on and do something else. So there's some that come and go.
Yeah, but
usually
Kelly,
the novelty wore off, and then they go elsewhere.
Well,
I mean, that happens, or they just get busy with life.
Yeah,
the novelty wore off for me with this podcast. That's why they're not as good as they used to be. I thought, Kelly, you told me you kicked out a whole family of volunteers.
No, we had a major upheaval because of the attitude of the past administration. they didn't like steam engines, and which is kind of like we're we're Southern organized steamers, and we didn't have a steam engine, and it just didn't make sense. And they had some problems, and most of them resigned. One of them we actually kicked out because of his negativity and his derogatory statements about the club and everything.
Have you ever kicked anybody out, Marcus?
I personally have not. It's been pretty rare that we've had to ask a volunteer not to come back, but there are situations that make that necessary. It's thankfully a pretty rare occasion.
Yeah. Hey, that's the first question we could ask Bryan. Our guest tonight, his name is Bryan Lalevee. Up until just recently, I referred to him as that guy.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're not invited yet. We didn't invite you into the room yet.
Okay, I'll leave.
Go back and eat the shrimp.
Close the door. Yep.
Until David corrected me that his name isn't that guy. His name is Bryan Lalevee.
I wanted everyone to know who it was.
Exactly. All right, Bryan, come on into the studio.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate the warm welcome.
You seem like you were just standing outside the door there.
Yeah, maybe.
Did that feel like a warm welcome?
I would think so.
Oh, okay.
You must not get many welcomes.
Yeah. It seemed to me more like a lukewarm welcome to me. I didn't put a lot of effort into it.
Especially when you told him to get out the first time.
Yeah, exactly. Anytime somebody tells you to get out, that's not a warm welcome. So tonight we have David Lund, who suggested that Bryan be on this show. We have Derek, who we're not exactly sure what Derek does for a living, but I'm almost completely convinced that whatever it is, it's illegal.
Well, I have terrible news. I had to work today from 8 a.m. all the way until like 5:30. It was ridiculous. Can you believe that?
That's the first time for you.
It is. I'm not used to actually having to work for a living.
It's hard to get across the Rio Grande River when the current's against you.
And this is your therapy session? Oh, you're in for a treat.
Yeah, I don't. Whatever Derek's doing, it's got to be. There's something shifty about it. I'm not sure what it is, but eventually Derek will be on the front. Derek, we'll be doing a podcast one night. It's like, where's Derek? Derek didn't come, and then Marcos will go, well, didn't you see the front page of the paper?
The Birmingham Times or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, don't worry. There's no journalism here.
Did you take your picture in front of the Hueytown sign yet?
I bet by the time people are listening to this, I will have maybe done that.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. I like the maybe. Yeah. The maybe's key.
Yeah. You did that last time.
I know. I'm gonna keep saying that, And
what is Hueytown famous for?
The Alabama gang.
Right.
Which is, I think, something to do with NASCAR.
Exactly. And name one member of the Alabama gang. Well, we got the Alabama gang out of them.
I live 45 minutes from the Talladega racetrack, and you had to tell me there was a race there. So I'm the wrong person to talk to about this.
Well, we know he doesn't race for a living. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure. And then finally we have the modeler simply known as Kelly.
Hello.
So Bryan, the reason we gathered here tonight is because David said to me one night, I got this friend, Bryan Lalevee. At that time, he just referred to you as that guy. And he restored a Norfolk and Western passenger car.
I wouldn't say I restored it. Our volunteers have a big part of that. So,
well, didn't you start the organization?
I did. Yes, I did.
And when did you start this organization?
We created the organization 2019, and we received our 501c3 about a month after that. So it was about May of 2019, June. We got our 501c3. Yeah,
501c3 is for those of you that are not members of the the United States of America. 501c3 is the designation for a charity. Which means, I guess, what? You don't have to pay tax on the money you raise or something?
Nonprofit.
Yeah, or nonprofit.
Nonprofit.
Correct.
So say you have the car out for a day, and it's on one of those day trips. Where does the car reside?
It currently resides in Pleasant Lake, Indiana.
Right, and it's on what's the railroad it runs on?
The Indiana Northeastern.
Okay, and how many people does the car hold?
16 comfortably.
Okay, so and how much do you charge for each person?
It varies. We don't actually set the rates for it. The Fort Wayne Railroad Historical Society leases the car from us, and they are the ones that are responsible for setting the prices on the tickets and whatnot, and the marketing of the trips. And
no, this is getting too complicated because I was going to go for simply something like blah 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 blah, and then you'd say, well, we make $4,000 during the day, and I would say, and how much does it cost to run the car for a day? And you'd say $3,300. I'd say, well, then that's $700 profit. So forget it. It was going a long ways for nothing.
Mm-hmm. So you own the car, or the nonprofit owns the car.
That is correct.
Then you lease it to the Fort Wayne Group. Which what doesn't the Fort Wayne Group do these days? I mean, they seem to have their hands in everything.
They have really blossomed the Indiana Rail experience. There's a backstory to this whole thing, but we'll get to that later.
Okay.
Wow.
But
I'm looking forward to that. Apparently, Brian's running the show now.
Well, I hate to break it to you, but Brian's been running the show since before you came into the studio tonight.
Jeez. Why don't you throw him under the bus?
No, I mean that as a compliment. There's nothing derisive about that.
So anyways, Derek, carry on.
Oh, well, okay. Well, I better record this. I think this is the last podcast.
No. What was it you were asking? You were asking.
Okay. So they market this as a component of the other excursions the other programs that they'll offer to the public, or are the programs exclusive to this car?
Okay, so they market the car as a part of the Indiana Rail experience.
Okay. And the Indiana Rail experience is what?
It is the excursion program that they have created, and it's a wonderful program. They have a series of different trips that they run each season, everything from theme trains like ice cream trains. They just did a cigar train. They've got the Tri-State Scenic Steam Excursion coming up here in a couple of weeks, June 14th and 15th. There's a wine and whiskey train. There's later on this year there'll be a brunch like train. There's also Christmas trains coming with Santa Claus. A lot of trips with Santa Claus. But it's just a whole themed experience, and you can find out more about the entire program at indianarailexperience.org.
And on June the 14th and 15th. So what is the Tri-State? Now, see, this is going to go all over the place. Let's see. So, okay. So where would your car be listed? Because it says, so what first is the Tri-State Steam Experience? Or
the Tri-State Scenic Steam Excursion will cover from Eden, Ohio, all the way up to Hillsdale, Michigan, covering 3 states. It is an all-day train trip. There'll be a layover in Hillsdale, plenty of things to do in downtown, and then there'll be the trip back, and that's going to be a fully steam-operated trip with 765 as the power, and 300 will be bringing up the markers of the train, both directions.
So is your car referred to as the private Pullman car?
300, or they call it the Roanoke. That's the way they're referred to our car.
So on the ticket prices, it says deluxe coach, open window, lounge car, open blah blah, first class diner, first class lounge, Pullman executive, first class suite, and then the very bottom it says private Pullman car, seats 15. Would that be you?
That would be ours.
That's $5,500 for the day. So I guess you rent it as somebody rents it out.
On June 14th, the car was chartered for the charter price, and then there's individual tickets available for the 15th.
Okay, that'd be a cool thing to do. I mean, 15 people. That's like what's $500 each, $700 each, something like that.
Well, the individual tickets right now, Lionel, are $350 a piece, so It's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
And that's for an all-day experience.
Well, that's what it costs to go to a Leaf game is like $350 for 2 tickets. So there you go. So how did you? So this isn't very old. this whole getting this car thing going. So what was it that made you start doing this? Because let's give a little bit of background. We're going to talk about this in our show for tomorrow. We're going to get more in depth into your personal life. There'll be a lot of personal questions about your, so have all your personal information ready so you can tell us about it.
Okay, my social security number is 777.
Yeah.
Like, is that a good start?
Yeah, like your credit card, your social insurance number, all those sort of things. We'll talk about that on the back. Yeah, we'll talk about that on the Patreon podcast because it's a little more private. So then only 300 people will have access to it. 300 people and 5,000 of their friends.
Oh, I'll let my wife know.
Yeah. So how did this all begin?
All right. So we're going to go back a little bit farther than the whole 300 thing. So we're going to go back to 1992 or 1993. I grew up in northern New Jersey, right outside New York City, and I grew up with the New York Susquehanna and Western and Conrail. Well, New Jersey Transit put on their Hoboken Festival every year, and my dad would take me and my brother. Every year we'd go out, and the URHS would bring out their old equipment, and New Jersey Transit would have a shuttle train over to the maintenance complex and give you guys a tour and stuff. Well, we went in 92 or 93, and the American Association of Private Railcar Owners was having their private car convention at the terminal. We did not know this. So we walked up, and there was, I think, 29 private cars that were lined up on 2 different tracks at the station, or 3 different tracks. So we got to tour all of these private cars, from business cars to, I remember the first car I ever went in was the Pennsylvania Railroad Mountain View. And that's going to come into play here in a little bit. But we went through business cars, dome cars, all sorts of different passenger cars. And I just kind of fell in love with private rail cars. I thought it was just a really cool thing. I especially took a liking to business cars with the open
Mm-hmm.
platform and whatnot. So we're going to move up to when I was in high school in night.
Can I just stop you for a minute there?
Sure.
You said the Mountain View cars can come up in a little bit.
Yes, I'm getting to that right now.
Now, do you have a script? Because I don't have a copy of it.
No, this is all very vivid memories, my friend. All vivid memories.
You didn't tell me about this guy, David.
Well, it was a nice little surprise for you.
Okay. All right, carry on. It sounds like a very interesting story, so please carry on.
Okay, so I got a job on the New Hope and Ivyland Railroad while I was in high school.
The New Hope and what?
New Hope and Ivyland Railroad. I think now they call themselves the New Hope Railroad. I think that's their new name. But Bucks County, Pennsylvania, outside Philadelphia.
While you were in high school?
While I was in high school, I was going to school during the week, and I was driving 75 miles each way down the Philadelphia area, Bucks County, to New Hope, just to work on the railroad. So I was a passenger car conductor, whatever you want to call us. I did the voiceover for the narration on the trip and stuff. Well, while this was happening, they were just finishing the restoration of CNO 614, which is a 484 Lima built steam locomotive.
Time out. We have questions.
Okay, please.
Yeah, you'll have to try to learn how to take a breath, or I'll. So, has anybody heard of Marcus? Is our best shot at this. Marcus, have you heard of the New Hope Railroad?
Yes, the New Hope and Ivyland. I sure have. Yep.
This is another.
I've heard of it.
Oh, okay. So that's 2 people that have heard. This is another railroad that I've never ever even heard of. It looks like it's strictly an excursion tourist railroad. Is it?
They have freight too. They do freight service as well.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And freight services. There it is. Like another. I'm telling you, this whole thing is like we got to stop this podcast because every time we're only like 20 minutes into this one, and here's another whole pile of car storage. The New Hope Railroad has car storage.
Should we just give out the email now and
be done with it?
Yeah, let's do it. Actually, that's not a bad idea. Let's just give out the email and call it a day. So how did you manage to get a job as a kid in high school on a railroad?
Oh, you're asking for it. Well, here you go. So there is a gentleman who lived down the street from me who had a live steam railroad in his backyard in New Jersey. And I remember hearing steam whistles. And I'm like, I started to investigate. Well, I made friends with this guy. Well, this guy, he had his steam railroad in his backyard. He was also a firefighter. He was also a high school teacher. He was also a steam locomotive and diesel locomotive engineer for the New Hope and Ivyland. So,
and on top of that, he was also a power forward for the Philadelphia Flyers with his good 200-foot guy, and his best season was 72 points. He had 22 goals and 50 assists.
Well, actually, Lionel, you're not far off. He actually graduated from the Ringling Brothers Clown School.
Of course he did.
So
you're making all this up now, aren't you?
Nope, not at all. So I had mentioned I was looking for a job on the weekends, and he said, "Well, we're looking for people down in New Hope. If you don't mind a hour and a half drive each way." I'm like, absolutely. So,
and what did you do? You worked on the passenger car?
I was a passenger car conductor. Yes, I was I greeted the passengers, the guests before they came on the train, and made sure everybody stayed safe and whatnot. And like I said, I also did the narration for the speech we give, but talking about the entire railroad and all the history of of the perils of Pauline Trestle and whatnot.
The perils of Pauline Trestle. And so, okay, you're what, 17 years old at this time?
Yeah, 17.
Wow.
So to couple that up, no pun intended. So CNO.
I see what you said. I see what you did there. Did you get that, Kelly?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
So CNO 614, they had just finished the restoration of the engine, and they were doing steam locomotive trips from Hoboken, New Jersey to Port Jervis, New York, and they were looking for volunteers. So I volunteered on the engine crew. I was up on that engine giving it a bath. I was also noticing that the Mountain View, the first private car that I ever went in, was one of the cars on the train. So I made friends with the owner of the Mountain View. His name was David Ross. Unfortunately, he's no longer with us anymore. With that car was the Alder Falls, which is another Pennsylvania Railroad car. And I got to he really took me under his wing and started teaching me about, passenger car mechanical systems and electrical systems and how not to backfeed a passenger car from another car. You don't want to do that, but I ended up being a car host on the Mountain View for several trips. And I was also on the Alder Falls playing the piano for a couple of trips as well. So, and this is all while I was in high school.
When did you learn to play the piano?
I never really learned. I just kind of started doing it. I can't read music, but I can play though. So,
wow.
Mm-hmm.
So what year would this have been?
97, 98. Okay, so that's about the time of the 614 excursions. And let me tell you something, being, in the tool car behind the steam engine at 79 mile an hour on that thing on New Jersey Transit on 614 was just incredible. I mean, I was removing coal cinders from my ears for 2 weeks after the trips. It was just spectacular.
And what 614? What railroad?
That's Chesapeake and Ohio locomotive, CNO 614.
And are you familiar with that one, Marcus?
Yes, that one I was just about to say has a very storied career. It was, of course, Chesapeake and Ohio in service, and then it ran earlier excursion service, and in the 80s, was that 1984 somewhere in there? They debuted they were trying to sell coal, a new form of coal for powering locomotives, and the 614 became the 614T for a while and operated in test service on freight trains in West Virginia.
Yep.
On revenue freight trains in the 80s, pulled by a steam locomotive.
Wait, what?
Yeah, that's a good question, Derek. That's a great question. What?
Yeah. For those of you who really want to get really geeked into it, Google the H3000 project.
Mm-hmm. Ross Rowland and the whole gang right there. So it's.
You know what, Marcus?
Yes.
There's something about you that annoys me. Actually, there's several things about you that annoys me. But you seem to be just you're like, you know what? You're like Chris Wayman. You're just like a fountain of information that you don't want that I have to pull out of you. Like you just
sometimes it just takes talking about the right thing for it to come out.
Okay. So
wait, are you saying he's a bad interviewer?
No. He just annoys me. So see, here's the problem, Brian. That's a whole pile of information you just gave us there, and there's like 1,000 questions in that whole pile of information. So let's see if we can capsule. And didn't the Mountain View, wasn't it part of that train that used to go through? What do you call it? Don't tell me. The big gorge. What's the New River Gorge?
New River Gorge, yeah.
There used to be a train of private cars that went through the New River Gorge, wasn't there?
Yes, it was the New River train, and it was often pulled by the nickel plate 765, which we don't need to go down that route because we've already been down there before. But that was another series of excursions. But those are now no longer operating either. So
yeah, and do I remember correctly, like being as how I'm a bit of an older gentleman? But Bryan, you need to realize this, and you can take this information with you going forward. I am strikingly handsome for my age.
I bet you are.
Do I remember this, Marcus, correctly? And you too, Kelly, because you could probably help fill me in on this. Do I remember this correctly, that in the 80s and early 90s, like 765 was it? Like that seemed to be the locomotive that everybody talked about all the time, was nickel plate 765.
One of them, yes, definitely one of them that was prominent in mainline excursion service.
Yeah, like it seemed to be like everything was about 765. Okay, so where are we at here now? You worked on the New Hope Railroad,
Mm-hmm.
and then you you ended up becoming friends with the guy that owned the Mountain View car, and then you became like a car host, because these guys would rent out their cars, right, to railroads.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And so then you'd do that. And what was the farthest you ever went on this car? Like, because a lot of these cars would do overnight trips, wouldn't they?
Well, funny story about that is, as you may know,
hang on.
As you may know,
yeah. Hang on, Bryan. We have a couple of rules on the podcast that are absolutely. There's really no. They're absolute. And when you tell us a story that you think is funny, you tell the story, and then we determine whether or not it's funny.
Oh, fair enough.
Yeah,
not supposed to be funny. It's actually kind of depressing. So the mountain.
Well, there goes that laugh.
Yeah.
Yep. So the Mountain View is a Pennsylvania Railroad car that was used on the Broadway Limited. Well, on the last run of the Broadway, the Mountain View was supposed to be on the train from New York City to Chicago on the last westbound run, and I was invited to go on that trip. Amtrak bad ordered the car 2 hours before departure.
And what the car?
They bad ordered it.
Bad ordered it 2 hours before departure. Wow.
Oh no!
And it never made it.
That'd be
never. Yeah. So
what year would that have been?
Oh, geez.
That's not a funny story, by the way.
No, I'd have to look that one up. I don't remember. That was I want to say that was 1990s, because I was on the Broadway in the sleeping car back in the early 90s. But yeah, so it was probably late 90s, I'm going to say.
So when Amtrak killed that train, you guys were sort of aware that this was it? This was the end?
Yeah, that was it. That was what there was one last eastbound trip and one last westbound trip, and that was going to be the end of the Broadway.
And where does that car reside now?
I believe it is at the Museum of Pennsylvania, next to Strasburg, because the car was donated. So,
because now we'll get into that. I'm going to make a note. We'll get into that in the next show. All right. So carry on. Now you're a car host on the Mountain View, and then what happens?
So then, after the 614 trips, so then I went to college, graduated college, and then came out here to Indiana, where I currently reside, and start working on the railroad. Well, I'm going to put all this together for you. So,
what railroad do you work on?
I work for the Indiana Harbor Belt. I am actually a locomotive engineer.
And how did you end up moving from New Jersey to what'd you go to college for?
I went to college for computers, computer networking specifically. I worked at...
Okay, so I'm kind of a wordsmith. David, is that not true? Do I kind of not paint pictures with words I hear on the old podcast?
You do, and that's why you have a podcast.
Yeah. Try to say that a little more enthusiastically next time. So let me paint a bit of a word picture here. You graduate, you go across the stage, you get your diploma, you come off, hugs with your mom and dad and brothers, whoever's there with you, and suddenly you turn to them and go, forget computers, I'm going to be a locomotive engineer?
Pretty darn close. It was 3 months after I graduated. I worked for Toys R Us. I worked at their corporate headquarters in New Jersey, and I lasted 3 months with a corporate gig. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. I had a picture of a Conrail SD60M on my desktop, and I kept staring at it. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. I want to work for the railroad. So I told my dad, I said, I want to work for the railroad. He's like, okay.
And what did your dad do? Was he a rail buff or a rail fan of any type?
He actually worked on the railroad as a second career. He hired in with CSX right after the split, roughly about 2002. And that was his second career. He was actually a conductor for CSX, and he retired from CSX.
What did he do before that?
He was in computers, electronics.
Wow. And how old was he when he started working for CSX?
42-ish,
Wow.
43.
Wow. That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. So
I don't think you should be on the podcast. It sounds to me, Derek, correct me if I'm wrong here. You're more of a deep thinker, so you'll probably be able to help me with this. Is he not too interesting for this podcast?
No, what's going to happen is this is no longer our podcast. It's now Brian's podcast.
Oh, yeah, I don't see.
Yeah,
that
I think he's. This is a coup d'état. I think it's the technical term.
Is that what's happening?
I think
Is that what you put on your salad? Or that's a crouton? I'm sorry.
That's right.
I'm finished and bring my coffee. That's
right. If I've learned anything from being self-employed since I was 25 years old, I certainly will just step aside and let somebody else take over.
Mm-hmm. You seem wired that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sit back and do nothing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I hate to break it to you, Lionel, but wait, there's more.
Yeah, I'm sure
of course there is. You see?
Well, we got to make sure we're already 33 minutes in. So we got to, because this is the free channel, we also got to cover all the important stuff about your preservation society so people can join in. So give us a shorter version and we'll come back to this subject when we do our Patreon show. So you go out to, how did you get on with Indiana? Was Indiana Harbor Belt your first railroad?
Yes, it was. Well, first official paying in a railroad retirement. Yes.
Okay. And how did they have an ad in the paper or something? Or
I knew some people out here and I put a resume in and got a phone call and did a phone interview and got offered a job.
And what would your resume say? I wanted to be a computer geek, but I changed my mind and I want to run trains.
Well, I had my previous experience at New Hope on there. I guess that said something.
There you go. That's true. You did have some railroad experience. Okay. See, there's a lot of information to take in. Yeah, and you can play the piano. Boom.
Yeah.
And here's a little tip for you. This Marcus and I are working on this. This is a play. Actually, it started with Mike May out there at the old Silverton and Durango, or Durango and Silverton. Which one is it?
Durango and Silverton.
Yeah. I always like it how you guys pause, like as if I know stuff. But anyways, they have these trains called, what are they called, Marcus?
You talk about the Polar Express?
Yeah. Well, yeah, the idea we're working on. So we've been working with Mike May, and what really we feel will liven up these Polar Express trips, which are very popular across the United States and now in Australia, is if they had a real polar bear on there.
Polar bear, yeah.
Halfway through the excursion, you release a polar bear. Now, we think it's the Marcus's place, the Transportation Museum, is an ideal place to test it because the trains don't go that far. So if all of a sudden the whole thing goes awry and, it's like people start screaming and jumping out, they'll really be right beside where they parked. So it won't be that big of a deal.
It's all about the experience.
Yeah, it's all about
But it's also kind of the wrong climate for a polar bear, so we're trying to work that out.
Yeah, David, you're thinking way too much, buddy.
Yeah.
You're too deep.
Facts. If you're going to bring facts and figures into it, you're going to screw the whole thing up. Okay, so all right, so you're now in the Indiana Harbor Belt, and now, how old were you when you got hired on at the Indiana Harbor Belt?
Ooh, 20. Yes, 20.
20?
Yeah, 20.
And how old are you now?
46.
Years have been tough, eh?
And ironically, I still work for the Indiana Harbor Belt.
Well,
I went to a couple other different railroads, but I've been back here at the IHB for going on 12 years now.
Okay, we'll get to that. So so now somewhere along the way, I'm not exactly sure how this all applies to your NNW 300, but how does this all apply to the NNW 300?
All right. Well, in 2000, I was a volunteer. I became a volunteer at the Indiana Transportation Museum down in Noblesville. And that's where I really cut my teeth in preservation. I pretty much adopted nickel plate business car number 1 as my favorite piece to work on in the entire museum.
Business car number 1.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you say the Indiana Railroad Museum?
No, the Indiana Transportation Museum.
Where's
and I'm
that?
sure, well, it was in Noblesville. I'm sure Marcus is very familiar with what happened with ITM, but it was a comedy of errors that we can probably spend an entire podcast talking about. But a lot of mistakes were made. That's all I'm going to say.
Have you ever heard of it, Marcus?
Yes, and they had to move their equipment at some point, and that's dissolved now. So there is no Indiana Transportation Museum now.
So I can assume, without even trying to guess that hard, it was some sort of infighting. One guy wanted to be in charge, and another guy wanted to be in charge, and then there was politics involved, and eventually the whole thing just dissolved because nobody could get along. So
We'll go with that.
I don't know I really don't know the inside story. I just know that it was eventually
Ugly.
closed, and then the equipment had to find other places to go.
Put it this way: a court ordered the equipment removed from the grounds, and the other organizations that came in to save equipment had literally 36 hours to remove all the equipment. It was crazy.
Yeah, wow. So that's another story. We'll have you back on to tell that story. That sounds like an interesting story. So you're at the Indiana Museum. You fall in love with business car number 1, you said?
Yes, correct.
And that was with what railroad?
That's a nickel plate car. It's a nickel plate car, and it's with the Indiana Transportation Museum had just received the donation of that car. And, so they were prepping it for service, and I was learning the finer points of, more about the mechanical systems and, and electrical and whatnot. So I was really starting to grow in preservation, and I realized how important preservation is, to preserve the past. That's something that I hold very near and dear to my heart.
I think that's an excellent point, actually. That's not something we've never really brought up, and I don't ever remember having that subject on, but you're right. I think but that kind of goes with my theory about rail fanning and taking the pictures preserve history. So where is that car now?
It's still in Noblesville. It was sold to Powell Felix or Felix Powell. I can never understand which one is his first name, but the gentleman who owns the Indiana Boxcar Company purchased the car, and it has not, to my knowledge, turned a wheel in many years.
The Indiana Boxcar Company. Anybody?
Yeah, I was just going to ask that.
Never heard of that one.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, it's his name's either Powell Felix or Felix Powell. I can't remember which is his first name, but he's an older gentleman that purchased the car, and he owned a couple of railroads that were under the IBCX umbrella.
I always feel bad at this point, Derek, with some of our guests, because basically he's just starting to annoy the crap out of me because there's way too much information. Like the Indiana Boxcar Corporation, I've never heard of that.
Well, I Googled them, and the third link on Google is to Hawkins Rail. And of course, Hawkins Rail has a whole write-up about the Indiana Boxcar Corporation.
Mm-hmm. So, and we recently talked to the Hawkins Rail guys.
Yep.
Ralph Hawkins, and we're going to have him and his daughter on in the future.
The Indiana Boxcar Corporation is a short line holding company based in Connersville, Indiana, and they own and operate 4 different railroads in Indiana, Ohio. I guess Indiana and Ohio. Yeah.
I think there's but railroading and rail fanning and model railroading, this hobby, how many times have I said this, is absolutely massive. Massive, massive, massive. There is so much information. I've never heard of the Indiana Boxcar Company, and it's northwest of Cincinnati in this little place called Connersville. And like you say, they have 4 railroads. It's not that far. It's halfway between Indianapolis and Cincinnati. Wow. And that's where the car sits now. So has it basically been left to kind of decay or something?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's kind of a shame. Okay. So now, what's the next question, David?
How did you find the 300?
Did I wake you up?
No,
Hi,
I was
good morning, David.
trying to form my question the right way.
Oh, okay, yeah, we don't. See,
Yeah, well,
don't put that much thought into it.
So
Have you, David? Have you ever listened to any of the podcasts with Kelly on them?
some of them twice, just because I can't believe I listened to it the first time.
There you go. Okay, so you get your preservation chops, your excitement of preservation by working on this particular car. And then how do we fast forward to what year is it when you start working on the NNW 300?
2017. I said a set amount of words to my wife, and whenever I say these words, it always perks your ears up. I said to her, I have an idea.
Yeah, see, I would have gone with honey, I love you.
Nope, this is even more powerful because she knows how I work.
Yeah. Take notes here, Marcus. Marcus, by the way, I didn't tell you, Bryan is our most eligible bachelor.
Oh, that's you. Okay,
that's me. Yeah,
awesome.
But for a while, our buddy Kevin Hardpart Marks was our most eligible bachelor. But then when we realized that Marcus was fresh meat,
now it's my turn.
Yeah. Kevin's already been through the wars. So you turn to your wife and say, I have an idea.
Yep. So I went through with my preservation mind going. I knew about a lot of passenger cars that were out there in museums that were just rotting away. Well, I went through my stash of pictures and I found a picture of 300 inside a warehouse. I knew where the car, there was a caption on the photo. It said, NNW 300 Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So I started to ask around and I found the contact information for the owners of the warehouse where the car was stored. So I reached out to them and they provided me with the owner's phone number. So I reached out to the owner of 300 on October 22nd of 2017. And I asked him, I said, what is your plan for the car? And he says, I have none. And I said, would you consider donating the car to a nonprofit organization that we would specially create specifically for the restoration and preservation of the car? And he said, I would consider that. So that's where it all started, October 22nd, 2017.
And how long did it take you to convince him?
Well, we agreed to meet on the car. I traveled out to Philadelphia in August of 2018. I hired a passenger car inspector who was Amtrak certified at the time at my own expense. And we pulled the car out of the warehouse on August 30th, 2018. And it had been the first time the car was out in the daylight in 27 years. Give or take.
Wow.
So we, it was a barn. It's a barn find, and that's the way I kind of look at it, because what we found was the car was in pristine condition exterior wise. We didn't find hardly any rust anywhere on the car, but the interior was in pretty rough shape. And I say that because of the mold that grew after being locked up for 27 years. It was pretty gnarly. But I sat on the moldy couch. There was a white slip cover on the couch. I sat on the couch and I closed my eyes and I let the car talk to me. And the car was screaming for help. And I knew that I was the right person to do something about it.
That's cool. Now, that's
the fact that it was in a barn or in a building for all those years, I'm sure that had an effect on the interior, like you said, with the mold. But the fact that the exterior was protected for all those years is that's an incredible situation, because you don't often run into that.
Yeah, it's a once in a lifetime find, because I used to have dreams about finding a piece of railroad equipment in a barn somewhere, and it's kind of like I was like predicting the future, and then this whole thing happened. So the car.
So that, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask Marcus a question that you both can talk about. Because you have experience in restoration and Marcus has plenty of experience in restoration. So Marcus, like when you guys, what is kind of like, what's your kind of yardstick for, yeah, we can't take that car. It's just too far gone. Like, do you guys do you have somebody that is mechanically orientated that goes out and looks at cars, or do you have a group of people, or how do you determine if a car is suitable that can be saved?
Well, if we get the opportunity to have one donated, or if we look at purchasing a car, we would definitely get an inspection done on it, and take qualified people that are mechanical and can look at the systems and see what, not everything we get, and in fact, sadly, most things we get are kind of like what he's talking about. There's a lot of work that has to be done to get it up to speed, but you can determine if the car is sound enough to transport and to restore by having mechanical people get involved with it. And like with the group here, it's you had a Amtrak inspector get involved and that kind of thing. That helps as well.
So that recently, what are they called? The Indiana Historical. What's that called? What do they call the Indiana Historical Society? What is that group that Kelly Lynch is the fronts?
Fort Wayne Historical Society.
Fort Wayne Historical Society. They just recently got a New York Central locomotive, and it cost them like $500,000 to move it. And so I'm assuming once you guys determined that the 300 was at least roadworthy to be moved, like it must have cost a fair amount of money just to move it from there to where does it reside? When you preserved it, where did you restore it?
We restored it in Valparaiso, Indiana, but can I segue into this if you don't mind?
I don't know. Let's take a vote. Kelly, what do you think?
I think this is going to turn into like a 15-parter podcast.
But is it okay if he segue? Are you a yay or a nay on him segue?
I'm a yay.
Yay?
I'm a yay.
Okay, Marcus?
Yeah, I say go for it. Segue.
Okay.
Segue away.
Derek?
It's his podcast now. Go ahead, Bryan.
David?
All right.
I mean, he's already here, so.
Okay. All right. So, yes, you can go ahead and segue into this part.
All right, so I'll make it quick for you, I promise. So prior to the inspection, I negotiated with the Indiana Northeastern Railroad to actually have a place to keep the car. And we also had a letter of intent from the Little River Railroad, which is a steam operation out of Coldwater, Michigan, because what our initial plan was to use the car on the Little River excursions, maybe 4, 5, 6 trips a year, nothing huge. So I drew up a 16-page proposal and I presented it to the owner of the car, and then I didn't hear anything. It went radio silent for probably 6 months. And then all of a sudden on a Saturday night at like 2:00 in the morning, I get a text message from the owner of the car, and it said, "Let's do this." Okay. And so officially October 9th of 2020, we received the donation of the car, and the keys showed up the next day. And to answer your question about how much it costs to ship it, it would be $11,463 to ship the car on CSX from Philadelphia to Valparaiso, Indiana.
And it was pretty much already roadworthy enough that it wasn't a big deal to get it?
All it needed was a COTNS, which is and Marcus, you can probably abbreviate what COTNS stands for, but I'm sure you know what I mean.
Yeah, I do know what you mean. I just what it actually means.
Checked, oil, tested, and serviced, or stamped, or something like that. It's just pretty much they rehabbed the air brake system. They removed the old ADBW brakes and put Wabco DB60L brakes on brake valves on there. So, and by the way, I should tell you that I sold a Dodge Ram pickup truck. That was our initial seed money to get the car home.
Your own personal truck, right?
Correct.
Wow. Look at you go. And just out of interest, in the 2020 census, Valparaiso, Indiana had a population of 34,151.
And one passenger car.
And one passenger car.
And what railroad was there?
Well, it's the Chicago, Fort Wayne, and Eastern. A local home improvement chain allowed us to use their lumber unloading spur. They gave us 1 year to restore the car, and we did it in 9 months. We restored the interior and the mechanical systems, including the air conditioning system, the heating system, the generator, the water raising system, the refrigerator. We restored everything in the inside, and we did it in 9 months.
And how many people did that work for you?
There was roughly about 8 of us total. Then there were some days where we would leave the car at 4:30 in the morning. There were some days we would get to the car at 4:30 in the morning. So it was roughly about 8 regular volunteers, and one of them happens to be now our chief mechanical officer.
So how did you find? I had another question before we got to that. I can't remember what it was now. How did you find these 8 people?
Well, I created our Facebook page, and I have several friends who are rail fans and love preservation, and it's kind of like, hey, I'll come volunteer, or hey, I'll come volunteer. And then we had donors that one of our closest donors just literally showed up one day and said, hey, do you mind if I take a look? And he became one of our big supporters because he saw what we were doing. He loved what we were doing. So yeah, the right people showed up at the right time with the right skill set.
And how often did you work on the car? Like this group of 8 people, was this like a weekly thing, like on weekends, or was this? It was
any time we could make time, people showed up. Like I would tell people like, hey, I'm off Wednesday, Thursday. You want to meet at the car? And they'd show up. And then I pretty much was the one that had the idea of the plan of what we need to do. But I'm going to give all the credit to the volunteers because they just took it and ran with it. And I couldn't be any more happy with the people that showed up. And, because they are the soul of our organization as our volunteers.
And 8 months. That's what
9 months. Yeah. 9 months from start to finish.
That's pretty incredible. I mean, I know what it takes to restore some of these cars, and it's a lot of work to get these things done. And, everybody wants a rail car to come in and, be boom, it's fixed up, ready to go, but it doesn't happen that way. There's a lot of time, a lot of money, and a lot of talent in doing that. And we raised
$36,000+ in that time period. One of the biggest expenses was the window shades. The Adelaide company, who made all of the brass lanterns for almost over 100 years, they manufactured the window shades on 300 in the 1950s because the car was modernized in 1955 to get this streamlined look. Well, Adelaide's factory is in Elkhart, Indiana, which is literally an hour from where I am right now. And so those window shades, there's 29 window shades on 300. Those cost us $11,000 just for those shades.
Kelly might know the reference to this, what I'm about to say. Marcus probably. I'm not so sure about David and Derek. You know what, Brian? You've got a lot of spunk.
Yeah.
You know what? I hate spunk. Kelly, do you know what that's from?
No, I don't. I don't remember.
Mary Tyler Moore Show.
Oh, okay.
The first episode when Lou Grant meets Mary, he goes, I actually said it to my secretary one day. I said, Barb, you got a lot of spunk. I hate spunk. Yeah, like this is incredible, is it not, Marcus, that they have managed to do this? And you guys have raised like ridiculous amounts of money. Okay, this is an insightful question. This is a question for you that is very insightful. When your friends listen to this podcast, I'm sure they're going to enjoy it because there's tons of information. But the only thing they're going to say is, "Who is that nitwit that was interviewing you?" Do you realize that you are unusual in this? Like, I've met a lot of people that restore cars and stuff, and Marcus and I have talked lots, and I've talked to other people. But do you have a sense of the ability that you seem to have to be head this kind of a thing?
Well, I'm going to tell you this. My mother taught me that nothing is impossible. All you have to do is, if there's something you want to do and it's in your heart, go do it, because the only person that's stopping you is yourself. And that's how I roll.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. I'm thinking the same thing, Derek.
You've got to have a real focus, and in something like this, you've got to have a person who drives this, because otherwise, I mean, you get volunteers together, everybody has a different idea of what they want to work on, what they want to make it look like, and this, that. So you've really got to have a good, clear plan, and sounds like you do.
Yeah, you got to be able to motivate them too.
Well, you know, what's funny about that, Marcus, is when I was sitting on the couch in 2018, I had my eyes closed. I planned out every single step from start to finish, and we have accomplished every one of those.
So was there a lot of hard, like difficult interior work to do, or was the interior pretty much intact but had to be cleaned up? And
ServPro came out and remediated the mold, and they only charge us $500 to do the entire car. They charge us materials only and no labor. But once that was done, then we started to, we had another organization provide us a paint chip for the Pullman interior color. So we had Sherwin-Williams, they partnered with us, and they offered us a very generous discount on all of the paint we needed for $300. So we went ahead and started priming all the walls. We removed all the furniture from the car, and we just started to prime everything and then paint all the walls. Then we had the issue of the old tile that was on the floor that was underneath the carpet that was severely molded, which we got rid of that. But the asbestos tile, we had to dispose of that properly. So what we did is we got the car down to a blank canvas on the inside, and then we just started working with each room individually. Like we started with the lounge, primed it, and then, you know, onto the bathrooms and whatnot. And there was a lot of old wallpaper we had to scrape off. But once we had that done, we then started to focus on the generator. So we pulled the generator off the car, and within 11 days, we had on the first turn of the generator, we had a fully working generator. The generator came to us with 560 hours on it. It was installed on the car in 1987 or 88, and the car was put in storage in 1991. So the generator only had like 3 years on it.
So, and this car, it has a kitchen in this car too, eh?
It does. It has a lounge, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 bathrooms, dining room, kitchen, service area, and crew room.
It has a lounge?
Yes, it does.
How many bedrooms?
3 bedrooms. It's a 3-bedroom car.
So in its heyday, would this car be most of the time rented by one particular group that would?
Nope.
No.
It was 300 was assigned to at least 6 different presidents of the Norfolk and Western Railway from 1917 to 1982.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
What year till 82?
From 1917 to 1982. And then the car was modernized in Roanoke in 1955.
So it was basically primarily almost its entire life spent as the president's car of the president of the railroad's car.
That is correct.
Wow. And I see you can get cinnamon rolls. The ladies making cinnamon rolls. I love cinnamon rolls.
Yeah, that was our last year. We did that's Kelly Lynch's sister.
Really?
She volunteered to do to cook on 300. They did some experimenting with cooking breakfast. And I will tell you that on the tri-state trips coming up on the 14th and 15th, I will be the executive chef on the car.
Wow.
Brian, what don't you do?
Yeah, really. Jeez.
He doesn't wash windows.
How do you know?
I was making assumptions.
How do you know, Dave?
Yeah, how do you know, David?
Please tell me.
Yeah, Dave.
I'm still waiting for my windows to be washed.
Yeah, go back to making your model airplanes there, buddy.
I've been replaced.
Okay, we're running out of time on this particular show because this is on the free channel. We got to get to the good stuff for everybody that wants to learn about this car. So first off, the website is nw300.org.
That is correct.
And why is it .org?
Because we are a nonprofit organization.
Wrong. Because you're organized.
Very organized in this case.
Yeah, really.
That's yeah. And I'm assuming you've listened to all our podcasts and some of them twice, so you would have already heard us say that. Okay, so nw300.org, and that'll take you to the homepage. And then if you click on the picture of Brian, I'm assuming that's your picture there that we see.
Nope.
No, it's not.
No.
Where it says become a member and support our vision in many ways.
That's one of our volunteers.
Oh, okay. So are you in the picture below that, the black and white picture?
I'd hope not, because that picture is, I believe. Let's see here. You got me wondering what picture you're talking
picture
about.
Of FDR.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, but he could be one of the guys standing beside him. He's the guy with the off to the right with the glasses, the bald guy.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. So, okay, you click on this picture of one of your members, and then you scroll to the bottom of that page, and that's where you can you can join the battle and help support the car. And it's general membership is $30 a year. A sustaining membership. So, what does a general membership give you? Just you're part of the crowd.
Yeah, so general membership that gives you the ability to come out and volunteer when we're working on the car in between trips. To be a car host on the car, you are required to be a member of our organization and a member of the Fort Wayne organization as well because of insurance. That's the only reason.
You know what? Maybe that's the way we should sell the Patreon channel. For $5 a month, that gives you the opportunity to listen to the podcast. For $30 a year, gives you the opportunity to work. Well, thank you very much. $60 a year says sustaining. What is the difference between sustaining and general?
It's just a little extra $30, for people who are just kind of want to add a little extra, to the donation for the membership. That's why we call it sustaining. So,
and when they join either the general or the sustaining, and I've had a couple of beers. This is sustaining. Is it automatically renewed every year?
No, they would have to renew on their own. We don't do auto renewal.
No, okay, well that's good. I think that's the better way to go. You don't want people to feel like they're being not necessarily forced, but you want to give people the opportunity to decide for themselves whether or not they want to continue. Then you have a family membership for $100 a year, which I'm assuming is kind of like the general one, and it gives the whole family the opportunity to volunteer.
Correct.
And then go ahead.
That's for as many kids. If you got 10 kids, bring the whole family. Come on.
What if you had a podcast that had like several thousand listeners? Could you join the family one and say, "Hey,
we'd be one big family membership"?
Yeah, we're all one big family here at the AML Nation.
I was just going to say that we are all one big family.
Yeah, exactly. And then the 300 Club, is that anything special?
Not particularly. No, it's just 300 Club is kind of like this little. If you want to go above and beyond and, make a big donation, and just kind of, it's just we thought it was catchy, 300 Club. It just sounds cool.
It does sound cool. So now here's your opportunity to help other preservation societies around the country and around the world. How much money have you raised so far for the car?
All right. So for donations, grants, and revenue, since 2020, $193,014.
Almost $200,000. So is that correct?
That is correct.
So can you give us in a very short, because we're going to talk with it on our Patreon channel, and also we will give you the opportunity many times in the future to come back and give us updates on everything that's happening with your society. But you have another car called the Hollins College car?
That is correct. Yes, we're raising funds to purchase the last surviving intact N&W 12-4 sleeping car.
12-4, what does that mean?
12 roomettes and 4 bedrooms. And it was used in executive train service with 300 from 1972 until 1987. And as an added bonus, it was used on the first N&W 611 trips in 1982.
Wow.
But now it's on the Morristown and Erie?
That is correct. Yes. The current general manager of the railroad purchased the car from scrap in 2000, and it has sat somewhat neglected since then. But the car has been on my radar for about a year and a half now, and we met with them. And we've set a price, and the price is $35,000 for us to purchase the car. And as of today, we have received 125 donations for a total of $24,104 raised towards the 35. So we're about $11,000 away from purchasing the car.
So the amount needed to meet the deadline of 2/1/26. So what's the date? Is that February 1st?
February 1st, 26. Yes.
That was pretty good, eh, Dirk, how I did that?
I've been very impressed.
Not bad for a Canadian.
Wow. I have a funny feeling he's going to be around for a while.
Yeah, I think
that's right in, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think his connection just dropped. Well, I'll have you know, Mr. Lavalley, that I also pay taxes in the United States of America because I have a house in Florida. So I'm more than happy every year to help out the fine folks in Florida. So I like to think of myself as a Floridian.
I don't like thinking of you that way.
Yeah, Floridian.
I prefer to think of you as Canadian.
Okay. So on February 1st, 2026, you've got to have raised 35. This is when the cutoff date is whether or not you can buy this car.
That is correct. That's our contractual deadline.
This car seems like it's in pretty bad shape.
It's not. If you scroll through the pictures, it's got a lot of peeling paint on the inside and a lot of mold, just like 300. That was the same thing. But here's the thing about it is all of the light fixtures, all of the sinks, all of the toilets, the number lights outside the bedrooms, everything is intact. There was a handful of broken windows, and that's been since boarded up, and they also clean the graffiti off the car too, but all of the window shades are intact except for one shade has a small tear in it, but the car it's intact, and this car is crying out for preservation because it's in its original configuration. It has not been altered.
And where is the yard on the Morristown in Erie where it's actually sitting?
It's literally outside of Morristown, New Jersey.
Okay. Okay, so my next question would be with this Holland's car, what is the how would you use it if it's all what you call it, 4 bedrooms and what are the other ones?
12 roomettes and 4 bedrooms.
Yeah.
Yes.
So how would you use this car as on you couldn't use it on your day trips, would you?
No, we absolutely could because each roomette and bedroom has seating, the daytime seating. So the bed folds up, and then you have regular seating. And one thing that we have noticed with the Indiana Rail Experience trips and also with 300 is people love the bench style bedroom seating. It would give our guests an opportunity to have a intimate space just for themselves to enjoy a train trip, and that's why we figured that this car, because of its historical significance and the fact that it will pair with 300 beautifully, that it's a perfect fit for us.
Here's a little a side note. For years, Kelly and I have always wanted to do a cross country trip in a roomette. I thought that was actually at least
across Canada.
Who gets the top bunk and who gets the lower bunk?
I was like, really? I thought that was actually kind of. Never mind, man. A tough room.
I know.
Yeah. So okay, have we covered everything that's pertinent information about dealing? So so now it's Norfolk and Western Preservation Society, and you've got this car. You've got your 300, and now you're going to want to get another car. And wow. And any other pertinent information we need to know?
Oh, I think you pretty much nailed it. As I said, the website is www.nw300.org. You can also find us. If you go to our page, you can click on our Facebook link to join us on Facebook. And I should also notice we were the winner of the Heritage Rail Alliance 2024 Significant Achievement Award for passenger car. That is a big deal. And I didn't quite understand what that meant when I was told we were being given the award. I really didn't understand that. And then one of my friends chimed in. She said, you just won an Emmy Award. That's what that award signifies. That's how big this award apparently is. I'm like, oh, wow. So
right, we're going to have to talk about that tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because we've run out of time. How do you think we did, David?
That was an amazing interview.
Am I waking you up? Because there seems to be a pause.
He shouldn't have grabbed that extra beer, it sounds like.
Yeah, really.
Like, are you nodding off or something?
Well, when you got twins at home, it's
yeah, that's true.
Full-time job. Yeah. But no, this has been an amazing interview, and
I'm glad
to bring them along.
Please tell me you didn't name your twins Muffin and Princess.
No, Princess and Muffin. I had to, switch it up.
What are their names again?
Elizabeth and Phoebe.
Stevie?
Stevie.
Stevie.
Well, no, spell it out.
Stevie Nicks. Yeah.
Choebe. Phoebe.
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 Like
yes, Phoebe.
Oh, okay, you're saying that with your Indiana slur.
Like, are we
Sorry.
talking like Phoebe, like from the show Friends?
Yeah,
Sure,
that's exactly
but,
what yeah, but that's not where it
for
came from.
for some people for that some generation they would say that, but
But it
not
just so happens
specifically.
just so happens to be David's middle name.
Yes,
For Phoebe Bridgers, right?
Yeah.
It's got a,
correct.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's got a ring to it.
The singer Phoebe Bridgers.
Yeah. That's cool.
Well, those are two normal names. Good job.
Yeah.
Kelly, can you give out our email address?
Yes, our email address, you can reach us at modelerslife@gmail.com. That's modeler with one L like Lavalier, not two L's like Pullman.
Doesn't Lavalier have two L's?
Yeah, it's close. Well, it's
crap.
actually pronounced Lala. It's actually pronounced Lalevee.
I just noticed that.
Lalevee.
I'm sorry.
It's close enough. It's okay. It's all right.
I apologize.
No, yeah, Brian, this is not your podcast. It is not okay.
You should see my bowling trophy that says Brain instead of Brian. I got one of those downstairs.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not okay.
It's not okay.
Here's what I would have got. Here's up at this. One L like Norfolk and Western.
That's
not
good.
two L's like Hollins. Or two L's like Lavalley.
Yeah.
But how is it pronounced?
Lalevee. Lalevee. Lalevee.
Okay, there you go. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you.
That's it for okay. We gave out the address. And if you missed on that, you can go to our website, amodelerslife.com, and eventually you'll be able to, I don't think I fixed it yet. You can click on the picture of the AML Nation's most eligible bachelor and also the mailboy, the official mailboy of the AML Nation, which has a picture of Marcus and two men in inflatable bear suits.
And you just have to figure out who the mailboy is from that picture.
Yeah, exactly. And click on that picture and boom, the address comes up and boom, and all you gotta do is fill in your text and send us off an email. We haven't had very many emails lately, so people start sending emails. And then let's see, what else do we got to tell them? Oh yeah, and if you like this podcast, and we're sure you did, if you for just a few cents a day, $5 a month, a few cents a day, you can have twice as much podcasting a week, because on Tuesday, that's our Patreon channel. And that's, we have about 300 people that belong to that, 250, 300 people. And, that is where you can have twice as much podcast. And that's a little more like you'll see that tomorrow when you listen to the show will be part 2 of the Bryan L show.
What a save.
Yeah. We're going to get a little more in depth into his life. We're going to find out more things about how he ended up at the Indiana Harbor Belt. We're going to find out more about his awards. We're going to find out about the other railroads he worked for and stuff like that. And then also, if you join the T-shirt level on the Patreon channel, you are entered into the game show that's sweeping the nation called Hey Dude, Where's My Shirt? Because everybody that joins at the T-shirt level gets a free T-shirt every year. Well, it's not technically free because you've paid for it over the year. But actually, I was talking to a fellow, John Parker, who has a fabulous HO scale railroad called the BNSF Fall River Division, and I invited him to be on the podcast, and he said he'd love to be on the podcast, and the reason we were conversing was because we owed him a shirt, and he had yet to get it. And he was saying, hey, dude, where's my shirt? And so everybody gets their shirt. It's just that the guy that's in charge of sending out the shirts is useless. And I think that's it. Have we covered everything, Derek?
While you're on the website, sending us some email.
Oh yeah, there's a store
asking
there.
about your T-shirt. Yeah, you should go to the store and buy something.
If you get tired of waiting on your T-shirt, go ahead and buy it.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
right. Yeah.
See which one shows up the quickest.
Well, the good news is if you buy a shirt on the website, Lionel's not involved at all in the production and delivery of the T-shirt. So.
And then we have water bottles and sweatshirts. I think we should change the color of that sweatshirt. Like dark blue doesn't really jump off the page. And then
I vote for Tuscan Red.
Ooh,
red. Yeah, you could make it red. Yeah, very kind of a Christmassy feel. And we'll be slowly adding more.
NNW feel.
And the what?
Or an NNW feel.
Yeah, there
Norfolk
you go.
Western feel. That's right.
Yeah, there you go. And there's all sorts of stuff we can put up there. And that's it. I think we've got it covered now, right?
Yep.
We've gone way over time here, Brian, just because we're trying to promote your your organization, which sounds like a fabulous. Do you guys have a yearly dinner or something?
No, but that'd be a great idea, though.
Exactly. That's why you came to the podcast, looking for ideas. Ideas. I always put an R on the end of ideas. That's my Sudbury slur. So now, Bryan, at the very end of the show, we need you to say happy rails to you. Now, the key to this is there's no singing, there's no dancing, there's no interpretation really of any kind. We just need an enthusiastic happy rails to you. You think you'll be able to handle that?
I think so.
Well, Bryan, as we close the barn doors on another episode of A Modeler's Life and the sun slowly sets over the... I think I did that backwards. Well, Bryan, as the sun slowly sets over the back 40 and we close the barn doors on another episode of A Modeler's Life, I guess there's nothing else left to do except for you to say...
Happy rails to you.
While in Busted Knuckle, guests of A Modeler's Life podcast stay at the Casa del Sol Motor Court and Inn, where late-night dancing at the Rumba Room is a magical event to be experienced.
It's another Lincoln Homer.
No, I did you miss the enthusiastic part?
It's...
You're tired now, aren't you?
I heard a sigh.
Don't worry, I'm tired now too.